welcome back with our next class. In today's class we are going to discuss tissue system. Now in the previous classes you have learned about simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissues, right? Now in this class we'll be discussing how the different tissues will associate with one another and then they will work as a unit. And when they work as a unit we call it tissue system. Alright, so in the plant body there are mainly three types of tissue systems present. They are epidermal tissue system, ground tissue system and vascular tissue system. Now if I have to give you a brief idea regarding them, then it would be epidermal tissue system forms the outer skin of the plant body, the part that you can directly touch or the part that is in direct contact with the external environment, that is called the epidermal tissue system, the outer skin of the plant body. Okay. Likewise, vascular tissue system means the tissue system which constitutes the major transport system in the plant body, that is xylem and phloem. Okay. So, epidermal tissue system is the outer skin and vascular tissue system means mainly the xylem and phloem. Okay. Now, other than outer skin and xylem phloem, whatever else is left, okay, in the plant body, whatever else is rest of the plant body is constituted of, that will fall under ground tissue system. So it is as simple as that. Outer skin, epidermal tissue system, xylem and phloem which will allow conduction or they are going to allow transport, they are the vascular tissue system, and finally whatever is left, okay, the bulk of the plant body, that is going to be under ground tissue system. Is that clear? Fine. So that's what it is meant here. See, they form the complete, these three together, they form the complete framework of the plant or the plant body, and each tissue system serves different function. Of course, all the three different types of tissue system will serve different functions in the plant body. They have very specific functions. Now, what are those specific functions? Let us discuss in details. So, let us start with epidermal tissue systems. Okay. Now, epidermal tissue system, as I have told you already, it is mainly going to allow or it is going to form the outermost skin of the plant body. So, its main purpose is protection. Okay. So, let's see what it is all about in details. See, the epidermal tissue system, it forms the outermost covering of the plant body, hence allowing protection, and it is in direct contact with the external environment. Alright, now epidermal tissue system, it comprises of certain structures, okay, distinct structures. They again will have specific roles to play, like epidermal cells which will form the epidermis, which is the outer skin. Epidermal structures like stomata, which is a minute pore allowing transpiration or exchange of gases in the plant body, and epidermal appendages. Okay, these are like certain projections, hair-like structures or certain outer appendages which will be arising from the stem and the root. If it arises from the stem, we call it the trichome, and if it is arising from the root, we will call it the root hair. Okay, so now let's see what are they in details. First, epidermis. So epidermis is a unilayered like cellular structure or which is made up of epidermal cells. It is a single layer which is made up of epidermal cells and it will form the outermost skin or covering of the plant body. Okay. Now mostly it is single layered, but that doesn't mean there are no exceptions. Biology is a science of exception after all. So you have exceptions found in every category. So also that means here mostly even if the epidermis is single layer, in certain plants epidermis is found to be multi-layered as well, like in ficus or nerium. Okay, so let's see here. See, it is the outermost layer of the primary plant body and is mostly unilayered. Okay, that's what is its like major characteristics. Now, rarely it may be multi-layered as well, like in case of nerium or ficus. Now, these are living cells. So, epidermal cells are living cells, means they will have their living matter, cytoplasm and nucleus. Alright, and they are mostly The nature is parenchymatous. So thin cellulosic cell wall will also be present. Fine. Now, they are elongated cells which are compactly arranged. Now these cells are elongated and they are going to be very tightly or closely packaged. Of course, if our outer skin that is supposed to be providing protection to us, if it has some gap or it has some kind of space in between, in that case anything from outside can easily enter the body. In that case the very purpose of the epidermis itself is lost, right? So in that case epidermal cells will be always very closely packed to one another without any gap. Fine. Now it forms a continuous layer, of course, but there are going to be sometimes minute interruptions in between, and these interruptions are called stomata. So there will be minute pores in between found and they are called stomata, which I have told you are very important structures which are going to allow transpiration and gaseous exchange in plants. Okay. Now, it also possesses a waxy layer of cuticle. Cuticle is a very important term again. Cuticle outside it to prevent loss of water. Now, outside the epidermis will remain a waxy layer or waxy deposition of cutin. It is the cutin that is going to get deposited. And when cutin is deposited, it will form a layer which is known as cuticle. Understood? And when cuticle is present, what's the function of cuticle? The cuticle is going to reduce transpiration rate, or it will avoid or it will not allow the loss of water. Being waxy, it will be not allowing water or it will not be water permeable. Okay, understood that? Now, cuticle is absent in the roots and hydrophytes. Of course, cuticle which is going to not allow water to pass through it, if it is not present or it is present in the roots, in that case roots won't be able to take up water as easily, right? So that's why cuticle is not going to be present in roots. Also, it's not present in hydrophytes. That means aquatic plants. Okay. Now, root epidermis is also called epiblema, rhizodermis or piliferous layer. These are certain terms you should remember, because in questions, instead of directly root epidermis, they might directly give you epiblema or rhizodermis or piliferous layer. So that time you must not get confused. So do remember, root epidermis is also known as epiblema, rhizodermis or piliferous layer. Okay, so this is all about the epidermis. Next section we are going to discuss are stomatal, or rather epidermal structures called stomata. Okay. Now see, first of all look at this diagram. From the diagram itself you can easily learn about stomata. See here, stomata is a minute opening, okay, in the form of a minute pore that will be occasionally present in the epidermis. So see, this is the stomatal pore, this being the stomatal pore, and the stomatal pore remains guarded or remains surrounded by a pair of Gerd cells. These Gerd cells are going to be mostly kidney or bean shaped in case of dicots, but in certain grass or monocots it may be dumbbell shaped as well. Okay, this is kidney or bean shaped, and the other one is dumbbell shaped. Okay, so now the Gerd cells will be living cells and they would be enriched with chloroplast. These minute dots that you can see, these are the chloroplast. So that means the Gerd cells can easily or very efficiently participate in photosynthesis, because chloroplast is the site for photosynthesis, right? And also Gerd cells will be themselves again, they will remain guarded or surrounded by certain specialized epidermal cells which are called subsidiary cells. So what are the three structures associated with the stomata? First, the minute pore, which is called the stomatal pore, which will remain surrounded by a pair of Gerd cells, which is the most important thing that is to be, that is going to be asked in your exam, or that you should remember. And then the Gerd cells will remain surrounded by specialized epidermal cells called subsidiary cells. Okay. Now do remember that it is the girth cell which will be allowing stomatal opening and closing. It will be controlling stomatal opening and closing. Okay. So in most of the plants, the stomata will remain open during the day and it will close at night. Okay. And this closing and opening throughout will be decided upon or controlled by the girth cells. How? There is an elaborate mechanism to learn how stomata will open or how it will close, but that you will be getting in other chapters in plant physiology. Okay. Right now you should only remember that when water enters the girth cells, that means the girth cells are swollen. Okay, the girth cells are swollen. At that time, the girth cells being swollen, stomata will open, and as water runs out of the girth cells and the girth cells will shrink or they would become flaccid, that time the stomata will close. That's the simple rule you should remember. If girth cells are swollen, water enters the girth cells, the stomata will be open, and in case water runs out of the girth cells, making the girth cells flaccid or they would shrink, then stomata would close. Is that clear? It's a very, very important thing you should remember. Alright, so let's see what it is all about. It is a minute opening present in the epidermis of the leaves. Mostly stomata would be present in the leaves. Okay. Now, it consists of the girth cells and stomatal pore. They are the most important structures associated. Now, girth cells are living cells that are rich in chloroplast, which controls the opening and closing of stomata, which I have already told you what basically you have to remember in this chapter. The girth cells swollen, water has entered them, then stomata open, water runs out of the girth cell shrinks, stomata closes. Okay. Now, girth cells remain surrounded by certain specialized epidermal cells called the subsidiary cells, and it basically the function of stomata itself is to help in transpiration. I think all of you remember transpiration from class 10, isn't it? So transpiration means the excess or the rather the loss of water from the plant body in the form of water vapor. If water is lost from the plant body in the form of water vapor, we will call it transpiration. Transpiration is a very, very important phenomena which will account for most of the transport happening inside the plant body. How exactly transpiration will be allowing transport, that again you will be learning in transport chapter. So now it helps in transpiration and it will also allow gaseous exchange. Okay, so do remember the structure of the stomata, the stomatal pore, girth cells which is kidney or bean shaped in case of dicots or dumbbell shaped in certain grass or monocots. The girth cells will be always enriched with chloroplast and they will remain surrounded by subsidiary cells which are spatial or specialized epidermal cells. That's it. Is that clear all of you? Fine. And the last we are going to discuss are certain epidermal appendages that are hair-like or certain minute projections arising from the epidermis. In case of root, we call it the root hairs, and in case of like stem, when they arise, we call it the trichomes. Now, see, first starting with root hairs. It is unicellular, very, very important. That's how you differentiate the root hair and trichome, because trichomes are mostly multicellular. Fine. The root hairs are unicellular and trichomes would be multicellular. That's how you differentiate. So that's why it's a very important point. So see, they are unicellular elongations which increases the surface area for absorption in roots. So major function of the root hair which you have learned already in morphology chapter is that root hair will increase the surface area for absorption in roots. That's why allow the roots to mostly efficiently absorb water and minerals. Alright. And also they would arise mainly from the zone of maturation. So this is something you have already learned in morphology chapter, isn't it? And finally trichomes. So these are usually multicellular, okay, multicellular like appendages which arises from the stem. They may be branched or unbranched, soft or stiff. And what is their function? The function of trichome is to reduce the rate of transpiration. Because of the presence of trichomes in the young stem, the rate of transpiration can be greatly reduced, because plants would not want that so much of water from the body should be lost. Okay, so that's why reducing the rate of transpiration is also a very important strategy employed by all the types of plants. So in that case, it reduces the rate of transpiration. That's the main primary function. But there is another function as well, which is applicable to certain plants. So certain kind of insectivorous plants, the trichomes are seen to be secretory in nature. That means they will be secreting some sticky substances. And those sticky substances will make the plant body sticky. So that when an insect will sit or fall onto the body of the plant, it will not be able to fly away easily, and hence the plant will be able to easily entrap the insect and feed upon it for nutrients. Okay, so it may be secretory in some plants, allowing entrapment of insects. Alright, so this is all about epidermal tissue system. So mainly what you need to remember, epidermal tissue system forms the outer skin or covering of the plant body. Its primary function is of course protection. Fine, that's it. Now, epidermal tissue system consists of three things. Epidermis, which is the outer skin providing protection, consisting of living parenchymatous cells, mostly single layered, and will be very compactly arranged and will allow protection to the plant body. Okay. Next, coming to stomata. In the epidermis, there will be occasional certain interruptions present in the form of pores called stomata. Okay, the stomata are minute pores which will remain open throughout the day and closes at night, and they will allow gaseous exchange and will also allow transpiration. Okay, about stomata you need to remember the structure, and diagram is very important. You have to level the diagram very properly. Okay, this is very commonly asked in the exams. And last are certain minute projections. When arises from root becomes root hair, when arises from stem becomes trichome. The root hair being unilayered increases the surface area for absorption in roots. Trichomes are mostly multilayered and they would allow reduction in the transpiration rate. So that is all about the summary of the epidermal tissue system. I'm very sure that it being so simple, you might have been very clear about it. The next we will discuss is ground tissue system. Now we are going to discuss the ground tissue system. As I've already told you, apart from the outer skin and xylem phloem, whatever is left will fall under ground tissue system. So it forms the bulk of the plant body. Okay, and because it forms the bulk of the plant body, you can see that all the simple permanent tissues, that is parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, all the three will together form the ground tissue system. There again, parenchyma will be maximum, because I have already again told you that parenchyma forms the bulk of the plant body, right? Now, regarding ground tissue system, the ground tissue system can be clearly divided into two distinct zones, that is the cortex and the pith. And again, the cortex can be further divided into various distinct layers. So in short, we can say that the ground tissue system comprises of various distinct layers of cells, okay, starting from outside, and that means internal to the epidermis, up to the centralmost portion, that's called the pith. Okay, so it consists of various distinct layers of cells, and what are those distinct layers? Let us discuss that. Okay, so see here, it forms the bulk of the plant body and consists of all simple tissues, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, and it is mostly differentiated into clear distinct zones of outer cortex and central pith. Alright, now the zonation in ground tissue system. See, mainly the ground tissue system can be divided into two zones, right? That is the cortex and the central pith, isn't it? Cortex and pith. But then we can further divide them into various types of layers. So these are the layers. Again, when we are going to discuss or divide it into certain layers, we can form three layers actually. Cortex, then in between comes pericycle, and the centralmost core region, that is the pith. Alright, so see here, cortex. It lies below the epidermis and may be few or many layered, and it can be differentiated into three subzones. So the three subzones that forms the general or forms the cortex are as follows: hypodermis, general cortex, and endodermis. Okay, so first starting with hypodermis. So outermost layer is epidermis, just internal to that remains the hypodermis. Okay, so see, it lies internal to the epidermis, just internal to the epidermis remains the hypodermis. Now, very important point is this: it is absent in roots. That means hypodermis is only strictly found in case of stem only. It is not found in the roots, be it dicot, be it monocot. It is not found in the roots. Okay. So it is single or multi-layered, and it is choline. Again, this is very important. It is choline chimatous in case of dicots, and it is sclerane chimatous in case of monocots. Now, if you remember, I have already told you choline chyma is absent in the monocots, isn't it? So, choline chimatous in case of dicots. So, that means hypodermis is made up of choline chyma cells in the dicots and sclerane chyma cells in the monocots. That's because monocots do not possess choline chyma. Okay. Finally, the function. Function of hypodermis would be finally protection, the most important being protection, and also in case the hypodermal cells possesses chloroplast, they can also participate efficiently in photosynthesis as well. Okay, so major functions would be first protection, then photosynthesis. Okay, next, internal to the hypodermis remains the general cortex. Okay, this is general cortex. Now, general cortex is again few to many layered, and it is parenchymatous. Which layer is made up of which type of cell? That you have to remember. This is very important. So, in general cortex, mostly the cells found are parenchymatous. Means they will have dense cytoplasm, prominent nucleus, and thin cellulosic cell wall. Okay. Now, the cells of the cortex, if possesses chloroplast, can photosynthesize as well. That is in case of hypodermis as well. And finally, the function. Function would be providing mechanical support, because cortex is going to form a bulk of the plant body, isn't it? So, it will allow the plant body to provide mechanical support. Storage, because it's finally made up of parenchyma cells. Parenchyma cells, wherever is present, will provide storage. So, in that case, storage. And of course, if possesses chloroplast, then they would perform photosynthesis as well. Okay? Now, last is endodermis. It's a very unique layer present in the entire of the cortex. First thing, it is always single layered. All this while you were getting that hypodermis or general cortex, they are few to many layered. But then in case of endodermis, it's always strictly unilayered, single layer. And it consists of barrel-shaped cells. Barrel-shaped cells means cells like this. In the cells which are structured like drums, okay, like drums. So barrel-shaped cells, and contain starch grains. Endodermal cells mostly contain starch grains. Hence, endodermis is also known as starch sheath. Do remember, these 3 points, all the 3 points are important. Single layered, okay. Next, it is barrel shaped, and third being starch sheath, okay. Next, Casparian strip would be present. Now, this is a very unique feature of the endodermis. In the cell wall layer of the endodermal cells remains a thick layer of waxy coat or waxy deposition of suberin. Okay, suberin deposition will be found radially or tangentially in the cell wall of the endodermal cells. Now, this suberin deposition was at first discovered by Caspari. It was discovered by Caspari. The name of the scientist was Caspari, and hence from the name of the scientist itself, this waxy layer of suberin was termed as Casparian strip. Alright, so Casparian strip being present in the cell wall of endodermis, it provides certain kind of unique feature to the endodermis again. The endodermal cells, because of the Casparian strip, it becomes completely impermeable to water. Water cannot surpass the endodermal cells. Okay, cell wall of the endodermis, because they possess suberin, that's why the cells of the endodermis cannot allow water to pass through it. Understood this? Very clear? Fine. Now, very important point is that Casparian strip, it is going to be very well developed in roots, but it is not going to be very well developed, or it will remain faint in case of stem. Very important point. All of you listen to it again, once again, so that it becomes clear. So endodermis is a unique layer in the cortex. It is going to remain internal to the general cortex. It is single layered. It consists of barrel shaped cells. Cells possess starch grains. Hence, it is also called starch sheath. Next, the cell wall of the endodermis possesses suberin deposition. And this suberin deposition, the coat or the layer that is formed, is called Casparian strip. Why? Because it was discovered by the scientist named Caspari. Alright. Now, due to suberin deposition or Casparian strip, endodermis, the cell wall, becomes impermeable to water. It does not allow water to pass through it. Okay. And the last thing, Casparian strips are very well developed in the roots, but it may be not very well developed, or it may remain faint in the stem. Alright, clear? Now, apart from the cortex, internal to the endodermis will remain the other distinct layer of the ground tissue system, that is pericycle. So it is the outermost portion of the stele. Now, what is stele? See, stele is the core portion of the plant body that consists of 3 layers: pericycle, vascular bundles and pith. 3 of this together makes up the stele. Pericycle, okay, vascular bundles and pith together makes up the stele. You will get to know about it in details in Plant Kingdom chapter. So in that case, do remember, pericycle is the outermost layer of the stele. Now, it may be thin-walled parenchymatous or thick-walled sclerenchymatous. So it may be of any nature. It can be made up of parenchyma also and sclerenchyma also. Mostly parenchyma. It is single or multi-layered, and it is not present in monocot stem. This is very important. Which particular cell is not present in which particular portion of the plant body? This is important for your objective exams. Okay. So do remember, it is not present in monocot stem. Fine. Function will be mechanical support, of course. Storage, as because parenchyma is available. Then it will form a part of cambial ring in secondary growth of dicot root. So when we will discuss secondary growth at the end of this chapter, we will be discussing secondary growth in dicot stem and dicot root. Because anyways in monocot, secondary growth is absent. So when we discuss secondary growth in dicot root, you will see that pericycle will be performing a very important role there. Okay, it will be forming something that's called cambial ring, and how it will be forming or what exactly is cambial ring, that we'll discuss at the end of the chapter. Right now, just remember that pericycle will have a very important role to play during the secondary growth in dicot roots. Okay. Now, it gives rise to lateral roots. So you know that in the roots, the branches are endogenous, isn't it? So that means what? It arises from the pericycle, which I have told you in morphology chapter. So that means gives rise to lateral roots. Alright, this much is clear. So the last portion is pith. Pith, which is also called medulla. So it is the innermost, centralmost core region of the plant body. Okay, so we have reached the center of the plant body. Coming from outside, outermost layer was epidermis. Then comes hypodermis, then general cortex, then it was endodermis, then pericycle, then in between will remain vascular bundles, that is xylem and phloem, which we are not discussing here because it will fall under vascular tissue system. Okay, and after so many layers, the last one, that is the centralmost region, is the pith. Okay, so it is also called medulla, and it is the central part of the plant body, mostly composed of parenchyma cells. So even here you are seeing that parenchyma cells are present. That's why parenchyma forms the bulk of the plant body. Alright. Sometimes along with parenchyma, sclerenchyma may also be present. It will not be formed entirely of sclerenchyma, but it will be a mixture of parenchyma and sclerenchyma in certain plants. Okay, and the cells will be not tightly packed, they will have intercellular space. Finally, pith is absent in monocot stem. So because we are discussing anatomy of flowering plants, mainly we are discussing what? Dicots and monocots. So while we are discussing anatomy, we are going to discuss dicot stem, dicot roots anatomy, or monocot stem and monocot roots anatomy. So pith will be present in dicot root also and stem also, monocot root also. It will not be present in monocot stem. That's what you need to remember. Alright, so this is all about the entire of ground tissue system. Next, I'll give you an overview about it so that it becomes more clear to you. So now for an overview regarding all the discussions that we have done in today's class. So there is one thing that I would like to mention about pith or medulla, and that is pith rays or medullary rays. See, if you imagine the plant body now that you have learned about anatomy, you know that there are various distinct zones present in the plant body, right? Like outermost layer is the epidermis, right? Which is the epidermal tissue system. Then starts the ground tissue system. That means internal to the epidermis remains hypodermis, general cortex, endodermis. Three of these together makes up the cortex, isn't it? And then again pericycle. In between comes the vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem, which will be under the vascular tissue system, and then finally the pith, isn't it? Understood this? This is the anatomy of the plant body. This is very important now for you to understand. The outermost layer of the plant body is epidermis. Then we start with ground tissue system. So in the ground tissue system also, it is going to be first hypodermis. Hypodermis will be present in the stem, right? So in that case, first epidermis, then starts with hypodermis, then general cortex, endodermis, pericycle and pith. This black colored marked, these are all ground tissue system. But in between pericycle and pith comes the vascular tissue system, that is the xylem and phloem. This is how the various layers inside the plant body would remain. Understood? Clear, I hope, right? So now look at this. I was trying to tell you something called pith rays or medullary rays, right? So suppose this is pith, the centralmost core region of the plant body, and this is the pericycle. Right? So this is pith, this is pericycle. You know that in between them would remain vascular tissues. Okay? Say these are the vascular tissues, xylem and phloem. Xylem, phloem. Xylem, phloem. Okay? Xylem, phloem. Xylem, phloem. Like this, the vascular tissues are present. Now we have some regions which are gap regions between the vascular tissues, isn't it? These are certain gaps which is not a part of the pith also, and which is not a part of the vascular tissues also, and which is not a part of the pericycle also. So what should we call this zones, this gap between the vascular bundles? These gaps, these gap zones, isn't it like looking as if these are certain small gaps or small strips of cells arising from the pith as rays? Isn't it looking like as if the pith is emitting some rays, and that's how they are coming out from the pith, isn't it? So these zones, they are known as pith rays or because the pith is also known as medulla, we call it medullary rays as well. And what are the types of cells present? So whatever is the composition or whatever type of cells are present in the pith, same types of cells are also found in the pith rays. So if the pith is made up of only parenchyma, the pith rays will also possess only parenchyma. If the pith is made up of parenchyma with a slight mixture of sclerenchyma, in that case parenchyma and sclerenchyma would be found in pith rays as well. Understood? So pith rays are nothing but certain thin extensions of the pith which lies between two adjacent vascular bundles. Understood? So they are called pith rays or medullary rays. I hope it is clear now. Fine. And this is another important thing. Ground tissue in the leaves. All this while we were talking about stem and roots, and you know that stem and roots, the ground tissue system comprises of cortex and pith mainly. But in case of leaves, there is no as such, the ground tissue system in the leaf does not consist of cortex and pith as such. Rather, it consists of certain specialized cells called mesophyll cells. Mesophyll cells are living thin-walled cells which are enriched with chloroplast. Hence, they will be able to perform photosynthesis. So, in that case, do remember the leaves do not have as such cortex and pith, and all those distinct layers are not present in the leaf, just like it is seen in case of stem and root. Rather, leaves possess certain green colored specialized photosynthesizing cells in them, and they are called mesophyll cells. Okay, so that's all regarding the ground tissue system, and I hope you are all clear about it. The next class will start with vascular tissue system.